I'm Jim Donahue. Um, I've been building guitars, basses, instruments for the last 30 years. Um, I work for a lot of different companies. I've done a lot of things. I have factories here in the United States. I have a factory in China. There's many inventions I've worked on, things I've tried to do, things I've tried to improve. A lot of stuff you make a little of this and you make a little of that. But one thing that always bothered me is I was making basses because I'm not a bass player actually. I'm a guitar player, but basses have a tendency to have some problems, and people have learned over the years to just basically accept these issues. Ned Steinberger, he did a great job with the headless bass. The problem that I find basically with basses, like this is like your basic standard PJ bass with a Fender style one-piece headstock, which is basically it's a Fender one-piece headstock. So when you look at an instrument, let me back up a little bit here. The truss rod basically starts here, and then it ends up here. Oh, I can't hear it different. So that your truss rod basically stops here. You have a little bit of adjustment right in this area here. Everything on this camera is backwards. So, but see, the headstock itself has nothing. There's no support on the headstock. So, what this does is it's pulling really hard on the truss rod. It's actually making the neck. You can see, if I get real close, you can see the action can actually go up or down as I push on the headstock. A lot of people own Fender P basses and jazz basses and other one-piece neck basses, and they say that is the tone that they need. The P basses, they've sold millions of them over the years since the 50s, and it seems to be the one go-to bass. I was designing basses, and I kept running into problems with dead spots, and truss rods kept adjusting. I would go to one city, and the neck would need an adjustment. Another city, the neck would need a different adjustment. It'd be overbowed, underbowed. When I had standard P basses, the truss rod would actually stop working. I would tighten it and tighten it and tighten it. And, the truss rod on a P bass, basically, the way it's installed is just a rod. And as you tighten it, it pulls the neck straight. The problem with that is the tension's constantly pulling on the headstock. So if you look at the headstock of a bass, you'll see that it actually wobbles. Like if I play a note, it actually wobbles. So what's happening when it wobbles is it's killing the tone of the bass first, and second of all, as the headstock vibrates like this, it causes dead spots that react differently in the wood. A dead spot is something that for years people have been trying to get rid of dead spots. A dead spot is considered a note that does not react with the wood, or the tonal character of the wood destroys the note. So there's no sustain. Sometimes the harmonic shoots off in a different direction, plays out of tune. All basses have dead spots. Now I tried to figure out a way to get rid of dead spots. I can change the weight on the headstock. I can. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Usually you can move the dead spot to another location, and I'll explain that in a second. So like here's a basic bass. Okay, it's tuned up to a clear tone iTunes tuner. So this is your standard bass. So if you're playing it, see, one thing is the truss rod first. This is the issue. As I back up, you'll see. And I'll move over here. Watch. Grab your headstock. So go get your bass, come up to the screen, and grab your headstock. And you can see, I'm putting a little bit of pressure with my arm, but you can see. So if you're playing a note, and then you can feel the vibration actually, and you can see it moving because it's only 14 millimeters thick. It's not that thick. So I looked at it from a certain point of view, and I thought to myself, well, all basses basically have been accepted this way, and people accept it. They complain, but nobody's ever done anything to change it. So I started thinking and thinking. I said, I wanted to make my own line of basses, but I didn't want this problem, and also I didn't want issues with truss rods. I believe you need a truss rod because you do have to make subtle adjustments. Some people play hard, some people play light. The heavier you play, the higher your action's going to be, or you're going to get a regular buzz. The softer you play, the lower you want your action. So on this, I'm going to show you what a dead spot is real quick. Because if you have your bass with you, you'll find one, I'm sure. Okay, so a clean note is something, I don't have the bass real high because it's clipping, so, but I'll play it kind of hard, okay. Hear the sustain. You get sustain, it's the note actually rings. Now normal dead spots fall between the 3rd and the 7th to 9th fret on the G string, generally. Sometimes you'll get a note that's just totally out of it. Just somewhere in another universe. So on this bass, let me turn it up just a little bit here. Whoa. I don't want to clip it too much, but you'll hear the notes, okay. Hear that note? It's not even a note. It's actually, it's almost out of phase, or it's out of tune with itself. The note is correct, but it's not strong. A little bit of sustain. Now, if I play the same note an octave lower, it rings. Now I play this one. There's nothing there. This one's out of tune with itself. It's like the harmonic shifting. This one's got a harmonic that takes off out of tune with itself. If I do this, here, and as I move up the neck, the notes become fine again. They ring clear. The dead spot's a big problem. That note is like out of tune with itself. So if you were recording in a studio and you hit that note, you would probably have a problem because you'd be out of tune with the rest of the band. So, you know, I looked at these problems and I said, well, you know, first of all, yeah, you got the issue with the headstock like this, and then they have a string tree here, which is basically the string goes down and comes back up again. So you're pulling off a higher part of the machine head. So you get that wobble in there. So it's constantly pulling force on the neck, which is giving it a buck. So I just thought, I got to get rid of this. How can I do it? So the first thing I thought was, well, you know, I'll make a bass. I looked at cellos and upright basses, and all those instruments don't have truss rods. None of them have truss rods. But if you look at a cello or a violin, an upright bass, they have the machine head design goes through. So actually, it's pulling from the center of the headstock. It's not pulling from the top of the headstock. So I started thinking about that. I said, well, if I make a neck that has reverse tension, where it's pulling the headstock back instead of forward, then I can alleviate these problems, especially with the truss rod. So I build prototypes. I'm a builder. That's what I do for a living. So my first bass, this is an heavy bass. These are basses I make in-house. This is a prototype. It's about 5 years old. Actually, it's about 8 years old now. But I've never made one truss rod adjustment on this bass, and I left it outside in a room that's temperature, so humidity and everything else. What I did with this one was, my first idea was to put the machine heads on backwards. So you can see there's a hole in the middle, and the strings go through, and they pull on. And I mean, it's great because I never need a truss rod adjustment because the tension's pulling actually this way, which is actually making the neck straight. It's counter function or counter tension on the truss rod. It's doing the opposite of what normally a headstock would pull this way. This headstock design pulls this way. It's great. You know, it's perfect bass, plays awesome. That doesn't buzz, never needs a truss rod adjustment. But unless you want to pay, you know, a ridiculous amount of money and buy a new bass, which, you know, you can. I mean, I'll make them. It's not feasible for people that already own. It looks cool. Some people do. Guitar players would never go for it. But in this case, this bass is awesome. But unless you want to you already own a bass and you're happy with your bass, there's some problems that will make it. There's ways to make your bass much better. So I figured, well, you know, I try to make something that's more